Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. Hope you guys are ready for your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, because it is dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once. Now, if you guys want to support the channel in a way beyond simply watching the videos, you can go to texgrebneroutdoors.com, check out the Make It Weird sticker, the Make It Weird shirt, the Life Ain't Like the Pornos, Hunting Ain't Like the TV Show shirt, and of course my personal favorite, the Kill with Stick shirt. Now, if you want to support the channel, but also get a discount on your traditional archery supplies, you can go to 3riversarchery.com. Check out the Trophy Burr limb bolts for a 3-piece takedown recurve. I love them because I'm terrible at keeping track of an Allen wrench. Shield cut feathers. Are shield cut any better than parabolic feathers? Probably not, but they look way cool. And of course, the highly recommended by me reflective arrow wraps from 3 Rivers Archery. I absolutely love it. Now, you can get that discount by using Tex Grebner as the code in your checkout. Gives you a discount, shows your support for Tex Grebner Outdoors to 3 Rivers, who I am very grateful for sponsoring my content. And you don't have to be in good shape in order to be a good hunter. But as a hunter, you will never regret being in good shape. So if you're looking for a reason to start a fitness journey, or you need motivation to continue your fitness journey, I strongly recommend that you look into traintohunt.com for their online fitness coaching that is hunter specific. Also, if you're looking to test yourself and you actually want to come compete with me, check out the Beast Mode Endurance Challenge and the Beast Mode Archery Challenge. It's very centralized to the Great Plains, Great Lakes, Midwest. So I really hope to see a lot of you guys there this summer. Now, people have been telling me for years that I'm going to mess myself up by shooting heavy draw weight bows. Now, this video is to prove a point, but also to basically tell you a long story about my obsession with heavy draw weight archery equipment, because it's what I love to do. And so I do it because I'm probably not going to be able to do it forever, so I might as well live while I'm alive. Now, I will reveal my secrets for shooting heavy draw weight equipment, and that, don't get me wrong, there are people like Denny Erickson that are way cooler than me. But, it's dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once. Have you ever noticed, especially because we're going to be talking a lot of nerd here in this video, how a Mountain Dew looks an awful lot like a potion of stamina in Skyrim the Elder Scrolls? Just saying. Now, this video is to basically be an exercise in endurance and in my archery accuracy. Now, the arrow that I'm going to be using for this is a 300 grain point, an Ethics Archery outsert, and an Ethics Archery insert. And this is a .150 Black Eagle Rampage. Now I'm going to flex this arrow here on the ends just so that you can see how stiff this is in order to actually handle the paradox of a 100-pound draw. Obviously, 5-inch shield cut feathers, reflective arrow wrap, and I even got a hold of a nocturnal nock for my arrows. That way, this video would look wicked cool. Now, I believe in legitimacy. I don't want what I do to be able to be reproached. So this may be a very long video. You guys will get to hear about my stories of my obsession with the 100-pound bow, and maybe you'll learn something. And I'm sure that there's going to be a few reactions to this video. People are going to say that it's fake, that the bow isn't remotely close to 100 pounds. People are going to basically have their balls shrink up the size of soybeans because I'm able to accurately shoot a 100-pound bow, which that's not the point of this video. All I want to do is show you that you don't have to be locked into what people say is impossible, that you can do what you want to do if you're willing to work for it. But not only are people going to call this video fake, they're going to try and impeach my accuracy, which you'll be able to see my scores, and they will also just out and out say that it's stupid. So how many shots can I get out of a 100-pound draw recurve? You're just going to have to watch and see. When a bow is unstrung, it is relaxed. When you string it up, it becomes braced. The distance between the belly side of the riser, generally speaking, to the string is known as the brace height. The further away from brace height that you go, the heavier the draw weight becomes. Now the standard draw weight measurement is at 28 inches. If you go a little bit more than 28, you get more weight. Well, not a great start. Oh, I did hit 110 ring though. The bow that I'm using is 100 pounds at 29 inches, which is what is marked on the limb. It's a Big Jim Mountain Monarch takedown. It's got a G10 ebony and burl wood riser, and it's got bamboo limb cores. I'm shooting an 1100 grain Black Eagle Rampage, and it is fast. Like, just to give you an idea, I've never ran this thing through a chronograph, but based off of my nocturnal knock pretty much outrunning the frame rate on my camera over the course of the 20-yard shots here, it is fast. But my bow is 100 pounds for sure at 29 inches. There is the fact that it's really 99 at 28 inches. Now, a full 29-inch draw is really hard to get in thick winter gear like what I'm wearing. But I can get it. It's basically 103 pounds at 29 inches. It is 99 at 28. And even when I'm shrunk down into a 27-inch draw, I'm still getting 93 pounds of draw. Now, the reason that I'm mentioning this is for the sake of legitimacy. I like being honest, which is why this video, while it may be visually boring because there's no cuts in it, I want to do an unbroken string of film so that you guys can actually see that I am doing exactly what I say that I'm doing, shooting a 100-pound bow more than 100 times. Now, I'm not super talented. I'm not superhuman. The truth is, I have an addiction to raw power. And I like pushing the boundaries of what people say that I can't do. I'm one of the kids that used to go play in the street because you weren't supposed to, because I just wouldn't listen. And so, truth is, I'm not saying that you're less of an archer or less of a bow hunter if you don't shoot in the upper draw weights. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is it is possible to shoot accurately with heavy poundage bows if a heavy poundage bow is what your normal actually is. I mean, hey, ladies and gentlemen, make it weird. Now, I said that it is possible to shoot accurately. I'm on film. I'm fighting the elements. It's below freezing out here. I'm fighting the draw weight, and I'm fighting the stress of trying to shoot well on film. So this is legit. This is reality. This is real. This is what's actually going on. I can't hide from this camera. I can't make myself look any better than how I am. So you're going to see a couple of misses. You're going to see some pretty wide groups. But by and large, the reason that I'm doing this is both as an endurance exercise to prove a point, and also to show how accurate I can be with this personal bow of mine. Now, with that all being said, I've shot some pretty wide groups in this video, but I've also shot some really tight groups. And so you can't really judge the fact that I shoot a wide group because I'm pulling 100 pounds of draw weight or touching delicate to 100 pounds of draw weight. So if you can shoot a better group than me with this draw weight, good for you. That's awesome. I'm super proud of you. This is just me having fun and honestly proving a point. This is about endurance and it's about accuracy. If it was only about endurance, I could just stand 5 yards away from the target, but I'm big into legitimacy, and so I want to actually show you how I shoot at 20 yards. Not great. But also, it is about endurance because I want to see how many arrows that I can actually get out of this bow while I'm getting a full draw at 100 pounds in one shooting session. Shooting a heavy draw weight bow, you have to be under control. You literally have to be in control of your shot because you're having to actually activate your central nervous system every time that you draw the bow in order to blast that strength through your body. I mean, that's a thing. You literally have to be in control of what you're doing. So I'm not necessarily snap shooting, but I do have a very rapid shot process. Now, sometimes I will freak out, lose concentration, and default to center mass shooting rather than using the point and shoot style or the instinctive style. So I do have a shot process. It's just very rapid by comparison. Basically, I'm scoring by 3D rules. Foam is 5, lungs are 8, 10 ring is a 10. I'm definitely not trying to pretend like I'm super accurate. It's not like I'm sticking them all in the white on a single blue face or a FIFA target in the yellow. 2 10s that time. Which, if you think you can do this better than me with this draw weight of a bow, by all means, show me, please. Oops, I almost forgot to count that one. Now, I'm only shooting 3 arrows at a time. In a perfect world, would it be really badass to have like 24 arrows plus 1 where I could shoot a 25 arrow group? Yeah. Trouble with that is one accuracy would go super down and it would fry my body out way too quickly because I'm honest about that. You can bench press a lot of weight 5 times, but if somebody tells you do a 25 rep set, holy crap, you're not nearly as cool as you thought you were. And so the reason that I went with 3 arrows at a time was because that's what the Lancaster Classic is, 3 arrows at a time. And as you can see, it's not like I'm taking a smoke break between groups either. It's pick the arrows up and get to shooting again. I admit it's a little bit embarrassing how my first shot always seems to be a panicked center mass. It's funny how whenever you try and discuss the challenges and difficulties that come along with shooting a heavy draw weight bow, you're always met with the same crap. You're always met with the, well, those wouldn't be problems if you weren't shooting a bow that heavy. I'm beginning to think there's something wrong with one of these arrows. Now you may be wondering, when it's 13 degrees Fahrenheit outside, why I'm not wearing winter gloves or gloves at all. And that kind of goes into the whole, one of the problems with shooting a heavyweight bow is that you have to be in control of it or it can be dangerous. So it's really hard to shoot a heavy bow with winter gloves on, because if you lose control of your grip hand, that bow is going to come back at you Wile E. Coyote style, swing around your fingers that are on the string and punch you in the face. So right now in the string of fire, my muscles and my grip strength, they're pretty all right, but I'm not thrilled about how cold my hands are. I'm not thrilled about that miss either. First miss. But that was my first miss so far. Now I'm all messed up and starting to think about it. Remember how I said when you get further away from brace height, the more weight gets added to the string every inch that you go back? Well, that miss was dead center over the 10 ring, but I had the same aiming point, but I drew the bow a little bit further than usual, and that's what caused the miss. That can also affect your arrow spine as well if you're not getting a consistent draw. Better shoot a lighter arrow and a faster bow. You see that deer jump my string? But I'm leaving it in the interest of honesty. I want you to pay attention when I draw the bow what my hands are doing, because they're going to start out above my eye level, and then I'm going to pull downward and apart, like you're doing a pull-up where you're trying to essentially bend the bar, but you're actually lifting your body weight off the ground. And so by pulling downward and apart, I'm using a really old technique that's been around probably as long as archery has been, that I didn't develop. It's just something that I fell into by necessity in order to do what I want to do. So I'm pulling downward and apart, and you can see that the bow actually goes forward, down, and on a diagonal sweeping motion. That, as far as I know, is known as a katra. And that is a natural byproduct of using my entire back. It's not me not following through. That is part of the follow through. And a byproduct of the katra is also that it will kill hand shock. Not that my big Jimbo has a whole bunch of hand shock, but when you use your entire back in order to draw the bow, and you're also not fighting for the back tension and rolling through your shoulder joint with it, then you're not really endangering yourself for shoulder injury. However, I know that I won't be able to do this forever, but I intend on doing it as long as I can. Another miss slash pass through. So we have my second miss. So far, so good. And the truth is, you shoot this many shots in one string of fire, the level of discipline to be focused on picking a spot, controlling your body, controlling the bow, and just trying for perfection, it's unfathomable. Like, it mentally wears you down shooting a lot of arrows, excluding the fact that it does physically wear you down where you get sloppy. What's funny is when you have your own creative control, you can basically look as good as you want or be absolutely honest. I think my first real exposure to heavy draw weight archery actually came in the form of the Odyssey audiobook, where all Penelope's suitors are trying to win her over by bending Odysseus's bow, and none of them can do it. But the hero of the story has a bow that is so powerful that nobody else can shoot it. And so that initially made me think that shooting a bow that basically nobody else could shoot was really cool. I have a feeling that it's only going to go downhill from here. So after I got done with the Odyssey and the Iliad audiobooks, I kind of got into Tolkien. And it's funny how when you put a dragon or a dinosaur on the big screen or the small screen, they have to be super overpowered. Like the dragons on Game of Thrones, Smaug in the live-action Hobbit series, they had to kill him with basically a ballista bolt, which is stupid. A dragon doesn't need to be overpowered. It's a dragon. When you get into this godlike creature, I instantly can't suspend my disbelief anymore, because they would dominate the planet if they could actually get this overpowered. Humans would basically be their slaves, like in the Elder Scrolls mythos with Alduin and so on. So the point is, I got into the Hobbit audiobook, and it was just so cool because Smaug is killed with a longbow shot. That was a better group. And so Smaug gets killed by a longbow shot because Tolkien understood fantasy. He's basically the father of modern fantasy. And so the fact that Smaug gets taken out with a black arrow from Bard the Bowman, who had a bow that nobody else could pull, well, darned if that didn't resonate with me and feed the fire in the back of my mind for wanting to shoot heavy draw weight equipment. And I loved Jurassic Park. The raptors were terrifying. I always loved the animated version of The Hobbit, which is a very faithful representation of Bard the Bowman and his excellent shot. Now, I still love Tolkien and all the high fantasy stuff, and we'll probably come back to that in a little bit. But I then got exposed to the Turok video games and the Turok anime. Now, Turok, Native American descendant that is basically thrust into a Conan Doyle-like style Lost World, and so I became obsessed with the idea of bow hunting dinosaurs, for lack of better words. Also, in the Jurassic Park canon, the Dilophosaurus, if it could fly, is basically a dragon. Let's be honest. I will never argue that it is difficult to be absolutely consistent with heavy draw weight archery, but it's addictive. Now, it was about this time in my childhood that I ended up finding a copy in my local video store, a VHS copy of Howard Hill's Tembo. Now, Tembo is not necessarily a hunting show. Tembo is basically a Tarzan-style movie. And the circumstances in which Howard Hill actually got his elephant with the longbow are controversial to begin with, because the guide previously wounded it because he didn't have any faith in the bow and arrow. So Howard Hill wasn't technically the first unaided sportsman to actually kill an elephant in modern times with a bow and arrow. Notice I'm saying a sportsman rather than a native. However, I got exposed to Tembo, and that was, I mean, as bloodlusty as it sounds, that was just amazing. A round hay bale, when you're the age that I watched Tembo, is like an elephant. And a little red Indian bow, oh boy, you're on safari. Or a square yellow hay bale, or technically a square yellow straw bale, is the perfect imaginary analog for a lion. And so Howard Hill shot a heavy bow, and that just continued the obsession that I had. And then I ended up getting a hold of a VHS copy of Bill Negley's Moment of Truth, where Bill Negley got an elephant with the bow, unaided, heavy poundage draw, and he also got a polar bear and a black rhino, and basically hunted down the big five with a traditional bow. Now, of course, there was basically an arms race going on at the same time between Bill Negley and Bob Swinehart, but I had the Bill Negley VHS as a kid as well. Now, coming back to high fantasy, I got exposed to the epic poem of Beowulf. Now, epic poetry is terrible to read. Terrible. Beowulf, Odyssey, Iliad, Song of Roland, these are known as the academic great bores, as in they're so boring, because they're not meant to be read, they're meant to be listened to when you're at a feast, drinking mead or wine, and eating red meat off the bone. But in Beowulf, Beowulf is a dragon slayer. Granted, the dragon does kill him. He basically dies from being melted. And he's not really an archer, but he is a dragon slayer nonetheless that had an incredible strength in his body. What's funny is, when I actually try and aim, I send one center mass. When I just let her fly with reckless abandon and an absolute faith in the outcome, seems to go way better. Now, I'm fond of saying it is dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once, which is something that I actually stole from the late great Tread Barta, who was also a heavyweight traditional bow hunter. But it also applies to Beowulf, because we have no idea how far back the oral tradition of Beowulf dates back before somebody wrote it down. It could be early Iron Age, hell, even early Bronze Age. But if Beowulf hit somebody with all of his force, because metallurgy wasn't great, he could actually break a sword. Not a great follow-up shot. Well, at least I ended that group on a high note. At the beginning of the last century, there was a renaissance in traditional bow hunting. Saxon Pope and Art Young moving forward, everybody shot heavy draw weight equipment. Now, Ishii did not shoot heavy draw weight equipment, but Pope and Young did. And that's from an anachronistic standpoint, but it is also legitimate to say that their bows were not made out of nearly the efficient material that we have bows made out of today. Now, if it looks like my arrows are kind of landing weak, it's possibly target angle and catching my sleeve. Did it again, center mass. Well, at least I'm consistent in the group. Now that is a hell of a group, just not where I want it. It is kind of funny in Buona Bowman when Negley lets his tracker shoot the bow that's 100 pounds when they're hunting elephant, and the tracker through the translator says that he wished that Africa could grow a tree that would make bows this powerful. So at least in the modern renaissance of traditional archery in the first world, everybody shot heavy bows. One, they didn't have the material to make more efficient bows, but also, guess what? They were badasses and did so because they wanted to. And I'm not really standing here telling you I'm badass, but it's what I enjoy doing. I admit, accuracy is beginning to degrade. Now, I didn't get serious about traditional archery until much later in life. But the first bow that I got was a 61-pound longbow. Then I got a Martin Jaguar in 50 pounds. And then I got a 70-pound longbow. And then I had a 90-pound bamboo longbow. And then I ended up getting a 75-pound Martin Hunter. Now, as you can see, I learned how to do it out of necessity. Of course, my hands are getting a little numb because it's cold out here. So I end up with the Fred Bear DVD collection, and it has the Bill Negley elephant hunt on it. And that got me really wanting a 100-pound recurve like Bill Negley. Well, I find a guy to build it, White Wolf Archery. The recurve model that they make is a Beowulf. Beowulf, as I've mentioned, was a dragon slayer in the epic poem. So naturally, there's no way in hell that I'm getting a bow named the Beowulf in 50 pounds or 60 pounds. No, we're going for broke. We're going 100. So I convinced him to build it for me. And now I had a problem. I had a 100-pound bow in completely uncharted territory when it comes to arrows. Not really proud of that group at all. Now I admit, I've got a big chip on my shoulder when it comes to my ability to shoot heavy draw weight equipment. Now I'm not incredibly accurate in this video because I'm not an incredibly accurate shooter. But the reason I have such a chip on my shoulder is because when I first started and tried to get advice, people acted like I was just plain stupid and nobody would help me. Because why would you ever want to shoot 100 pounds? It's undoable. Here's hoping this group's a little better. I made a video some years ago where I actually shot 50 arrows into a hay bale with my Beowulf Dragon Slayer model. And that was pretty cool. but I had never really gotten around to making another video like it until the one you're watching right now. Not a good start. Group was terrible. The last two shots weren't bad. Between me getting this big Jim takedown and me getting the Dragon Slayer and actually getting comfortable with a 100-pound draw, I ended up starting to play the video game of Skyrim, which is awesome. But in Skyrim, while you're slaying dragons, they actually have a bow material that is ebony. And obviously we have ebony wood in the real world as well, though it's not the same as the in-game universe. But when I found out that Big Jim could not only build a bow in 100 pounds, but also could use ebony in my riser and put in a strip of green burl wood to look like a stamina enchantment in the bow, I thought that that was so cool. And so I ordered up my Big Jim Ebony Recurve, straight out of Skyrim. Basically right now, I'm fighting the elements, and I'm fighting the draw weight. I'm fighting my own weakness, and I admit I'm losing discipline. There's definitely a level of exhibitionism involved in shooting heavy draw weight equipment because you're doing something that is perceived to be undoable or perceived to be really difficult. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy, but anybody, male or female, if you are able-bodied, you can literally have a goal, train yourself up to it, and do exactly what I'm doing here right now if you actually want to. What burns me up is when people discourage people like crabs in a bucket. They discourage people from actually going above and beyond what is normal. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, make it weird. Go ahead, do what makes you happy. If you want to shoot heavy draw weight equipment, then don't let anybody tell you that you can't or you shouldn't. All I would tell you is be careful and work your way up. Anybody can do it. I mean, I shoot a heavy bow equally as bad as I shoot any other traditional recurve or longbow. I definitely have an addiction to raw power, but right now, 100 is about as much bow as I can control, and it's also hard enough to get an arrow tuned for a 100-pound bow, let alone going up into the 150 range, where you basically have to take a .250 bow fishing arrow and slide it up inside of a .500 XX75 to get the spine right. Yeah, I definitely shoot my best with reckless abandon. Now, sometimes when it comes to the historical insane draw weights. I wonder if these bows that they're finding aren't basically floor-tillered staves, where they found that shipwreck that was full of bows. I wonder if they were basically just unfinished longbows that were then going to be tillered out. You having fun yet? Now I know that I'm not putting them all in the 10 ring after all, but we're dealing with a considerable volume of shots. I mean, this is a lot of arrows, whether you're shooting a heavy draw bow or a standard draw bow. This is still a lot of arrows. Now, what you're going to notice here is the fact that I actually start the shot process. Things aren't perfect, and then I let down and start over. But hopefully you're also noticing that it's not like I'm creeping forward out of my full draw. I'm still drawing strong. I'm just starting to get my hands super cold, my nose is running, and it's so mentally taxing when you're trying to shoot this many arrows, whether it's a heavy draw or not. But I'm also having fun in the sense that I love shooting the heavy bow because it's my normal. So even though I'm not shooting a fletching touching group in the 10, and I know I'm making excuses, but I'm still not shooting absolutely terrible based off of the draw weight range that I'm actually in. Now, of course, I mentioned sliding an XX75 over top of a bow fishing arrow, because back in the day, in modern traditional archery, you kind of had to do that with a heavy draw weight bow in order to get the spines to come out correctly. And it's important that you use an arrow if you're looking to get into a heavy draw weight bow that is going to be heavy enough. That way you're not going to worry about blowing up your bow or having an arrow that is so lightweight that your arrow flight is just absolutely erratic. Shit, I shot 3 10s on that one. Well, one of them's touching the line, so I guess 2 10s, and it depends on if somebody's generous in the scoring. You've probably noticed at this point my epic hair. I look like the bastard child of the Working Class Woodsman channel, but I'm not wearing my cowboy hat in this because I wanted to make sure that I could get a full warbow draw extension to actually shoot with rather than my normal hunting 27-inch draw. Now, there is also the fact that never gets old of how that arrow, when it hits, it rocks the target. So that kind of dovetails into my addiction to raw power. Well, at least it stuck and didn't skip off the back. Foam is your friend. Just to revisit my shot process, the truth is that I have a rapid shot process because even if you're shooting a standard draw weight, holding it there is not going to make the shot any better. Literally, as soon as you hit your anchor, you should either be able to release the shot with an absolute faith in it, or you should let down. Because the more that you try and correct it, the more you're going to pull it out of shape. Now, I mentioned being an instinctive shooter. That's not necessarily true. I prefer the hill style of split vision, that my shot process is also so rapid that It seems very intuitive and instinctive because I'm using an 1100 grain arrow out of a 100-pound bow, which is the same as shooting a 600 grain arrow out of a 50-pound bow. Hell of a shot on that last arrow. In the interest of continuing to make it weird, I feel like I should almost have the Skyrim atmosphere soundtrack for the frozen forest playing in the background, because this is the literal real-world equivalent to level grinding at this point. But I don't think I could monetize if I used it. Getting cold on my hands. I don't know how many of you are actually familiar with the tabletop Dungeons and Dragons game, but you roll dice and you got a D20, a 20-sided die, and you're basically rolling in your attacks or in whatever. But when I send an arrow center mass, it's literally like I've got a D20 in my hand, and then I'm rolling a 3. Like rolling a 1 is a miss. I'm like rolling a 3 when I send one center mass. There, I rolled a D20 and I got a natural 20. I'm beginning to think there's something wrong with that arrow. Hell of a time to notice it. I'm probably the only one in the world that thinks that this would be cool, but I always thought that it would be cool to do like a Dungeons and Dragons style campaign, but on a 3D course where you've got a party of people, you're trying to navigate this enchanted forest like you're trying to navigate a dungeon, and the 3D scoring rings represent hit points. And because Dungeons and Dragons is a turn-based role-playing game anyway, you would just roll the dice to see who shoots the target first for initiative, and the scoring rings be the hit points, and you role-play your way through the 3D course like the Fellowship of the Ring. I did bring spare arrows just in case I broke a knock. Maybe that'll fix the mojo. I love it when somewhat young, able-bodied people talk about being overbowed, as if it's scientifically impossible that you can't actually get stronger. I mean, really? Really, guys? The bow is not too heavy, you are too weak. If Genghis Khan came up to you and put this bow in your hand and said, if you don't want to be on that pile of bodies over there, you'll figure out how to shoot this, you would figure out how to shoot it. And yes, this isn't stellar shooting. In spite of my previous statement, I totally get it. If you don't have the time to maintain shooting a heavier draw weight, by all means, shoot a lighter draw weight. You pick it up 3 months after the fact, you can still shoot it comfortably, go out and have fun. I'm all about fun. But I could have just done this at 5 yards. If you haven't figured out right now, I'm the voice in your head because you're basically hearing my inner monologue while I've been doing all this. But you talk to somebody, and right after you have answered their question about what your draw weight is, they are going to be like, if it's over 60 pounds, mind you, they're going to be like, well, are you any good at shooting it? And my answer normally is like, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, I've had a bad shot there. Now I've got a real good shot. Rolling a 3 and then rolling a natural 20, what can I say, on the D&D dice? But they always say, can you shoot it? And I don't shoot a trad bow out at 40 yards. So, I don't know. I would imagine that I could probably get pretty good at long distance with this bow if I actually wanted to. But I don't train at 40, 50, 60 yards. The same way that other people don't train with heavy draw weight bows. Now, I probably could, but I haven't so far. But inside my normal range, I would say that so far, I'm not shooting too terrible, and I know that I keep saying that, but I'm not shooting too terrible for the amount of arrows that I'm putting down range. As you can see though, my hands are getting really cold at this point, but I can't put on gloves or I won't be able to control the bow because of the slippery handle. And I'm getting a little bit fatigued, and that's mentally as well as physically. And I'm getting pretty erratic. Well, that last arrow wasn't great. I mean, the entire point of this is one, for you to watch, and also for me to kind of show off, and also test my accuracy as well as my endurance, because like I said, I could have done this at like 5 yards, but I wanted to make sure that it was legitimate. And even though I'm fatigued and my hands are cold and mentally I'm burnt out, I'm still getting a full draw, and I haven't missed in a while. That was the 34th group. So anybody that's good at math, 34 3-shot groups. And I can't remember if I missed 3 or 4 times. One problem with continuous take filming is you can't really stop, break, and edit out when you sound dumb. Now, at this point, remember how I said I was pretty mentally burnt out? I have no idea how many shots I've missed. The original goal of this video was to try and get to 100 arrows fired. Even better would be 100 arrows on target. I should end on that arrow, because we're now over 100 shots. I don't know a whole bunch of people that shoot bows 100 pounds and up. I know they're out there, but I kind of wonder if I've got a world record right now. But then again, I probably don't, because there isn't a world record for this yet, because nobody thought that it was worth actually reporting because they already just do it. But because I can't remember how many times that I missed, we're going to go for another group. That way I know for sure that I've got 100 hits. What's funny is the first time that I ever did this many shots, well, I've never really filmed this many shots with a heavy bow like this. I thought I was going to rip the tendons off the back of my hand, but now I can hardly feel my fingers. Yeah, that wasn't great. So I'm pretty much at the point now where I'm actually starting to struggle to maintain proper form, and I'm kind of just slinging and praying right now as far as trying not to miss. Yeah, I'm going to go for one more group just because I want to try and end on a really good one, or at least not a terrible group. Physically, I'm not feeling bad right now as far as this 100-pound bow, but my hands are cold and my mental discipline is pretty shot. And it's getting dark and hard to pick a spot. Now, the original goal was shooting 100 shots. The trouble is, I'm having fun. I shoot safari rifles for fun, like 375 H&H and 458 lot, and it's a visceral experience when you're dealing with that level of recoil. And it's very similar with the heavy draw weight bows, because you're focusing all your energy, literally like focusing it in a martial arts sense, in a mystical sense. You're drawing that bow back to your face, and you've got the dragon by the tail. You literally have raw power in your fingertips right now when that bow is at full draw at anchor. And then you release it, and that arrow flies and hits that target, hopefully. And that target deer just shakes like I hit it with a brick. There's definitely an addiction to raw power in shooting heavy bows. So, I've still got some feeling left in my fingers. I can't believe I'm doing this. You can't tell just how dark it actually is, but it would be questionable as to whether or not this was legal shooting light for bow hunting. My hands are cold, my ears are cold, I'm fatigued, and I'm having to struggle to get to that full draw, but I'm still getting it. My accuracy is getting pretty erratic, but I just can't stop. I don't want to stop. I want to do my best and set out what I intended to do. And in a sick, twisted way, I'm actually having fun. Even though my nose is super stuffed up and I don't want to farmer blow it right into my mic. But I figure, what the hell, at this point, I know that I'm well over 100 shots that are on target at least. So, might as well go out with a bang. Unless I forgot one, that's 38 groups of 3. But I got 6 arrows here. Not great. Of course, I'm way too far into this video to say, oh, hell with it, I'm going to start over, go pull that one out. That would be an awesome looking group if I hadn't screwed up the first one of the group. Damn, that would look cool if I didn't have the one all the way on the other side. Would have been a perfect group to end on if I hadn't rolled a damn 3 on my skill check that first shot. Now I'm going to go for one more of 6 because my pride's involved right now. Actually, I probably should just end on that one. One arrow left, level 100 archery skill. It is dangerous to release too much of my awesomeness all at once. At least I ended on a high note. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this week's episode of Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday Morning Cartoon Awesomeness. And I hope you guys enjoyed some of the stories about my developing the obsession with the 100-pound bow. Now, people will say that it's fake. People will say that I shot terrible. And that's fine. I deal in reality. I know that this was a long and possibly boring video because I didn't want to make any cuts in it. I wanted it to be honest. You can look as good as you want, or you can make yourself look as cool as you want, or you can be honest and let people be the judge of it. Because no matter what you think of yourself, it doesn't matter. You don't live in a vacuum. You will be judged on a daily basis. You can walk up to me anytime if I got this bow on me and tell me to put it on a scale. And I won't have a problem with letting you put it on a scale and pulling it down to 27 inches, 28 inches, or 29 inches to verify that I was telling the truth. Because if you're honest, you don't have anything to worry about. Your lies will never catch up to you if you don't tell them. So, as always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please got my friends over at 3riversarchery.com. Thank you very much to those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.